Nation is live. Welcome to the High Vibe Nation, where we have set out to raise the vibration of every human being on the planet. Your hosts on this journey are Sherry Gideons and Pamela Aubrey. So let's join them now in their current interview with a high-vibing individual.
Hello and welcome to the High Vibe Nation, the number one positive media show focused on raising the vibe of the planet. A space for you to remember the power within you. It's a love revolution. I'm your host, Sherry Gideons, and this is my co-host, Pamela Aubrey.
Welcome to the show, everyone. As always, such a joy to have you here and to have our very special guest, Dame Natalie Ledwell. She is a best-selling author, host of the podcast Not Over, Just Different, co-host of the cable TV show Wake Up, and founder of Mind Movies, the hugely successful and revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 5.8 million people worldwide. Right now, she has launched her brand new groundbreaking social and emotional learning curriculum entitled Personal Growth Studies into schools here in the U.S., which is designed to empower youth from ages 5 to 18 to live fulfilling and successful lives with high self-esteem and a vision for a bright future. In October 2018, she traveled to Liberia, where she met with government officials and launched Personal Growth Studies into a number of schools, which is now in its second year working with over 1,000 students. In 2020, she had the immense honor of being knighted by the Orthodox Order of St. John, a humanitarian group recognizing individuals who are not only doing great work, but who have a big vision of the work they want to complete in the world helping others. So welcome to the show, Natalie.
Hi. How are you guys?
Awesome.
Great, and you?
Yeah, fantastic.
Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
So as you know, on this show, we'd love to talk about being high vibe. So tell us what it means to you to be high vibe.
Ooh, okay. So high vibe for me is all about the frequency which we're putting out into the universe, which is not just the frequency that, that it affects the people around us, but that keeps us in that place where we're in one flow. So for me, it's about, maintaining gratitude, finding joy, not just in my work, but in other things that I do. And then, making sure that what I'm doing is actually permeating out and affecting the people around me.
That's so awesome. Well, I just want to say how grateful I am for you being on here today. It's been such a pleasure to be on your own show and just what you're bringing forward to our own audience. And I wanted to start out by asking you the question, share with us the 6 steps of how to manifest anything we want in life.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is the keys to the kingdom.
Let's have it.
So I mean, the way that I got to this particular formula is, when I looked at how I apply law of attraction, which is the main message that I teach, is, how do I break that down into actionable steps? I used to call that my stupid human trick, but I call it my human gift now, that I can look at something and then kind of, I'm a systems girl. I like to break it down into steps. So the first step actually has a lot to do with being high vibe, and I call it getting into your happy place. When you're in your happy place, this is where you're resonating at this higher frequency. What we know now is that, if we're talking about the law of attraction, like energy attracts like energy. So how do I become a vibrational match to the things that I want? How do I get to that high frequency? Well, our emotions are the frequency that we're sent out into the universe. And so if we can maintain higher frequency emotions, then it means that we're easily in flow and things are easily attracted to us. Everything that we need to make our dreams a reality. So, things like happiness, joy, pride, accomplishment, courage, and, gratitude. So for me, one of the easiest ways to get from a lower frequency to a higher frequency emotion is to step into gratitude. So for me, it's like, you have a gratitude practice is super important. So whether that's, writing 5 things in a gratitude journal every day. For me, I like to, in the mornings, when I take my little dog out for her wee walk in the morning, that's my exercise or activity. That's my trigger to drop into my gratefuls. so that, I'm always, getting into that place. And it's not just going through the motions of saying what you're grateful for, or writing down what you're grateful for. The purpose of all of these steps that I'm going to be sharing with you today is how it is feeling, how we're feeling, the emotions that we're eliciting when we're doing these different things. And so, when you can really step into that feeling of gratitude, it really helps to maintain that higher frequency. And if you can do it more than once throughout the day, one of the tricks I tell a lot of my community is to set a little alarm on your phone or on your watch, so that, at different times throughout the day, when that little alarm goes off, again, it's a reminder to stop, drop, and then be grateful for something in that moment. So you're really helping to keep that frequency high. And if you're finding it difficult, because, we're going through some pretty challenging times right now, and if you're finding it difficult to feel that gratitude, then, I really recommend that you, sort of close your eyes, focus on your heart chakra, and start taking some deep breaths and imagining the light in your heart chakra just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you do that, it's really helping to amplify that feeling of gratitude. Okay, so that's step number one. Step number two is then to set an intention. So this is kind of where you draw a line in the sand and go, right, no matter what, this is what's happening. I am creating this successful business. I am losing this weight. I'm finding this amazing love in my life, whatever that is. And so when I do that, I actually write just 2 sentences, no matter what, I have an outrageously successful business. And then my second sentence, it starts with, this enables me to, travel or to give to charities or whatever that is. And then I'll stick that little statement on my mirror. And for the first week or 2, as I'm working on a new goal, I will recite that intention statement to myself, looking at myself in the eyes when I'm looking in the mirror, so that I'm again, when we're talking about, infusing everything with emotion, I'm doing this and really infusing it with conviction, this is happening no matter what. And it really starts the universal world, wheels turning to start helping things, fall into place for you. Step number 3 is to get clear. For me, it's I like to write out affirmations, because I'm writing this script of what I want as if it's already happening now. And I use affirmations as a prompt for my next step, which is visualizing. And so I always write down what it is that I want, what life looks like when I get there. So I'm describing what it's going to look like, why I want to, achieve this. And then I also think about, how do I need to change the way I think? Because, what I know is that our thoughts create our reality. And so if I'm in a reality that I'm not particularly happy with right now, it's well, my thoughts created this. And the good thing about that is all I need to do is change my thoughts and I can create a different reality. You're like, hallelujah. So I'll think about, how does a wealthy person think? Or how does a person in love think? Or, so I'll start to write them down as well. So once I have that list, and I can either use that list to create a mind movie or create a vision board, then I'm going to go into my next step number 4, which is visualizing. And so if we can't see ourselves already in this future in our mind, then it's very difficult for us to create it into reality. And one of the most effective ways to visualize is, rather than seeing yourself as a character in a movie, actually put yourself in a moment. So choose a moment of what you're going to experience once you've already created this particular outcome. And for me, when I was looking to create love in my life, I would see I'd put myself in this moment where I'm on a beach, I'm on vacation on the beach. I could feel the deck chair underneath my skin. I could feel the sun warm, on my skin. I could hear the waves crashing. I could smell the ocean. I could taste the pina colada that I'm drinking. And I'm looking across at my partner, and I just saw a form, but I'm feeling so much love and so much contentment in that moment. So I'm creating that, and all the feelings of what would happen once I'm actually there. Because with our visualizations, we also want to feel our emotion, to pick up a vibrational match, and want to feel what it's like to actually be in that moment. So you may not necessarily be feeling joy and happiness, but you could be feeling relief. You could be feeling, proud, whatever that is. So feel what you would feel in that moment and make it as real as possible. Our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what we see through our eyes, and what we create is this very vivid picture in our mind. So, you want to make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis. Now, also, you don't need to be sitting down in, a meditation position to meditate. You could do what I call daydreaming with intention. You could be vacuuming the house, and in your mind, you are already in this future and feeling and seeing what it's like to already be there. So, as often as you can do that, the more you are reprogramming your mind, creating these new neural pathways that have thoughts that are in alignment with this amazing future, which positively influence your actions. And then when you have your thoughts, your actions and emotions all in alignment with this amazing future, then you are a big magnet for everything that you need to make it happen. So step number 5 is to take action, of course, and any action is better than no action at all. And you can't take the wrong action. Whatever action you take is going to lead you to where you need to go. All right. And then number 6, which is probably the most challenging of all, is what I call surrender. So we need to surrender into knowing that, it's definitely on its way. It may not show up the way we think it's going to show up, may not even look like what we think it's going to look like. But we have to surrender into knowing that everything is happening in divine timing exactly when it's supposed to be, that the universe has our back. And so when we can do that, if any challenges come up or anything comes up that's, maybe what I call or my girlfriend Lisa Nichols calls a gift wrapped in sandpaper, rather than it kind of completely derailing us, you can go, oh, well, if this is meant to happen, what am I meant to see here? What am I meant to, learn from this particular event? And that helps to keep our frequency high, which means that we don't lose our momentum, and then we can keep moving forward towards our goals.
Wow, that is so powerful. So one of the things you talked about was mind movies. So can you tell us a little bit about those and then what the difference is between those and just visualization?
Yeah. Okay. So a mind movie is basically a visualization tool or a prompt. So most people would, have heard of vision boards. So a vision board is, a board that you stick up on the wall and you'll cut out maybe the car you want to drive, the house you want to live in, or the vacation that you want. And so every time you look at this particular vision board, it makes it easier for you to put yourself in that house or in that car, and to feel what it's like to drive it and to be there. Well, a mind movie kind of takes it just a little step further, and it's the movie version of a vision board. And so it's a combination of affirmations, photos that match those affirmations, and then of course the secret sauce is music. Because as we were saying, when you're visualizing, you want to feel what it's like to be there, and music is one of the fastest ways that we can actually elevate our emotions to get to a place where we can feel what it's like to be in the future that we're creating. And so you can create mind movies about particular subjects. You can do general ones. What we've done at Mind Movies is created software to make it easy for people to make these movies for themselves. And so at the beginning of every year, I'll make one, just a general one for the year of all the things that I want to do, but then I'll make a specific one. And when COVID hit this year, I made 3 new Mind Movies. One was to do with business and the children's program. And of course, all of those goals I've been able to hit. One was on health, which I've been able to hit those goals as well. And one was on love, which I've also been able to create that too. So once you really go through the motions of getting clear about what you want, writing those affirmations out in, what you want, what it looks like, all of that, putting it together in this beautiful little, movie, then once you've done that, you can download that movie to any of your devices. Makes it easy for you to carry it around with you. And it really helps you to put you into the vibrational match of that you have described inside your mind movie.
I love it. And I've had mind movies for years. I have my own little account with you. So I love how easy it is to really get those pictures and then create your own sound tone that feels really good, that really connects you more to that feeling.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, like, with my business mind movie, because it's mainly to do with the kids program, I used a song called Beautiful by Christina Aguilera, which is all about, regardless of what they say or being bullied, you are beautiful. So it has meaning there. I use a song called Confident with my health, and fitness one. And then I used the John Legend song, All of Me for the love one. So you can use different music, different themes to elicit different emotions. So yeah, it's really cool that you can play around with that.
Yeah, I love that. And so my question is really getting into living in the moment, because we've talked about surrender and we've talked about living in the moment and how our point of power is in the moment. So when people aren't able to manifest what they want, why?
I think the main reason that we get stuck is that, with our conscious mind, we can be very clear about what we want. Okay, we can go, right, I'm setting this goal. This is what I want to do. The challenge is that our subconscious mind is sometimes working against us. And so what we know now through sciences like epigenetics and the way that our brains work is that especially when we're younger, and between the ages of say 2 and 6, our brain is predominantly in theta brainwave activity, which means that we're little human sponges. So not only are we listening to everything that we're told, but we're observing all the behavior of our family, our parents, what we see on TV, our teachers. And so at that young age, we're starting to form these opinions on what we believe to be true. Now, our brainwave state starts to change for about 6 or 7 years old. And then some of these beliefs are then concreted into our subconscious mind. So, for example, if you were told that you were stupid when you were a kid, then you start to take that on as a belief. Then every time as you go through life, you start to look through the lens of I'm stupid. So if you fail an exam, you go, yep, see, I knew it's because I'm stupid. And now it's not true. It's just that it's something that you were told that it becomes this belief. And we have all of these like hundreds of thoughts that are connected to these deeper beliefs, things like I'm not worthy, I don't deserve it, or, I'm never going to amount to anything, or all these stories that we were told that, like I said, aren't necessarily true, but our 4-year-old self has taken it on as a belief. And normally you can track a lot of these back to specific events, especially that have a very high emotional, attachment to them. That really start to affect how we operate as an adult. And a lot of the work I do in our community is undoing and unraveling a lot of these beliefs that aren't particularly true. And so, even though our conscious mind is focused on one thing, our subconscious mind is basically running the show 95% of the time. And we may not even realize that we have these beliefs that are holding us back. But if you're someone who's starting to work towards a specific goal, and then you always have this little voice or this, that's coming up for you going, that's never going to work. Or who do you think you are? How do you think you're going to do this? All the small self voice that's coming up. Normally, that's what's sabotaging people from being able to create the amazing, beautiful life that they want. So, when I'm working with people, what I highly recommend is that as you're working towards your goals, because this is when you're going to start to challenge these beliefs and these programs and behaviors, write everything down, write all these thoughts that come up for you. And then when you see them on paper and see them in the light of day, you're like, all right, well, those thoughts are not serving me and they're not getting me to the wealth that I want or the love that I want. So what am I choosing to think instead? And so when I was speaking before about, our affirmations, and I always write down, how do I need to change the way I think? Part of that is, well, what are the thoughts that are holding me back from actually, creating this goal? And what am I choosing to think instead? So that when I'm visualizing and I can actually see myself operating from these new thought paradigms and how it positively influences the outcomes that I create because my thoughts have changed.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, is just how do we deal with some of those limiting beliefs? So that's really helpful. And I think that part of that is, and I think you talk about this a little bit too, is just the energy around some of those beliefs and how we deal with that. So what kind of recommendations do you have for people for that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, and be aware. I mean, awareness is the first step. We want to be aware of what's happening and the thoughts that are coming up for us. Then we can, we can look at, how do I release these? And one of the techniques that I teach that I think is super effective is EFT, or tapping. We can tap on different meridian points on our, face, going through and reciting these negative thoughts as we've written them down on the paper. And what we're doing here is we're interrupting that thought process. We're, tapping into the parasympathetic nervous system, and we're actually able to release them. But then what I also recommend is that you have the thoughts that you do want to think instead. So release those thoughts, make sure that you know what you're releasing there. And the other step to that, and this is like a little bit step further if you want to do this or feel that you need to do this, is to go through a little bit of a forgiveness process as well. Because sometimes we can look at these different thoughts that we've had about ourselves and beliefs we've had about ourselves. And it's easy to blame parents and our environment and different things from the past, which is, okay, we could do that. But when we're in a place of blame, then we're still playing the role of the victim.
Joe says here, he says, so we can all blame our mothers.
Yeah. I know, our mums and dads get cop the blame for everything. And let's face it, most of the time they're really doing their best, and I'm like one of 8 kids. I'm from a very big family, and I know that we could all be present for one particular event, and some of us remember it, some of us don't. Some of us were massively affected by it, and some of us were like, whatever, So it depends on your age and your personality as to how these different events are going to affect you. The thing is, it happens for all of us. And sometimes the forgiveness is around the parent or the sibling or whatever that is. And sometimes the forgiveness is for yourself. For me, a lot of the times it's for myself. I'm like, how did I not see this? How am I still, stuck in that story? And for me, I also like to look back and go, okay, the stories that I tell perpetually about past events, how am I telling those stories? Am I telling them from the place where it's somebody else's fault or this happened to me, rather than this event happened and the gift I got from it was this? Now, well, from that place, it doesn't keep me tethered to that past event. It doesn't keep me, in that victim energy. What it does is it puts me into this empowered state where I can acknowledge and see the gifts that I received because of the event that was supposed to happen anyway, if everything's happening in divine timing, that I know that this is how I'm using it to power myself forward.
I love how you share that, because we had talked before about the quality of questions you ask yourself determines the quality of life you live. What kind of questions do you frame for yourself that really shift that vibration and bring you those answers and solutions in the moment?
The questions will always differ depending on the situation, but I think what's most important is that we don't stop asking the question. So we can get to why did I say that? And then it might come up as, because I felt like they did the wrong thing. Now, you could stop there, or you could keep going and going, okay, well, why did I feel like they did the wrong thing? Or why did that behavior trigger me? Then you look at that and go, okay, a prime example of this is I had a friend of mine. I'm part of a transformational leader group. And there's a man that's a member of that group. And he has this behavior where he needs to be the center of attention. And I don't know, that behavior for me, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard. And I get so upset by it. And then I realized I had a moment like, wait a minute, Nat, there are 100 other people in this group and no one seems to be annoyed of this behavior like you are. Where is this coming from? So then I go into a meditation or I get really quiet. And I'm like, well, what's happening here? Why does this behavior trigger me? And it's not like, why is this person annoying me? It's like, why does this, if I'm stepping outside of it more as the observer, and then I realized when I was young, my mom used to always, tell me that, why do you have to be the center of attention? Why are you in the limelight? So she used to drill into me that it was a bad thing to do that. So I'm like, so I can see it's got nothing to do with him. It's just that behavior is catalyzing for me because it reminds me of some of the programming that I picked up as a kid, so then it's easy for me to release that and not be so triggered by it. So for me, it's asking the different questions depending on the situation, but don't keep the inquiry going. Once you answer that first question, then what's the question underneath that? And then what's the question underneath that? So you can really get to the core of what you're actually looking to find.
Love that.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, because that's one of those things that it's easy, if you've been in that habit for a long time, you aren't necessarily aware of it. You might just keep going along with it until one day it's like, wait a minute, did I really have to do that all this time? I could have probably stopped at some point and taken a look at that for what it really was.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like, I always stop myself too, because if I'm easy to blame someone else, then I'm like, well, okay, wait a minute. Because when I'm in blame, I've just given away all my power. I can't do anything about fixing this situation because it's them. It's the situation. It's the environment. It's the economy or whatever that is. So until I start to take responsibility for myself, there's no way that I can actually fix it or heal it. So and my husband and I were married for like 20 years. We're still really good friends and we're still business partners, but we haven't been a couple for like 8 years. But that's what was happening. I realized at the end of my marriage, I was blaming him for everything, And then when we split, I was like, oh, I don't have my scapegoat anymore. All right, so I need to sort of take responsibility for my own actions here. And that's what really helped me to propel forward and heal and look at and go, well, what was my role in the end of my marriage? How did I play a role in this so that I wouldn't make that mistake again? And it was also a massive opportunity for me to grow and evolve, so that I would be right for the next big love in my life.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about developing this awareness in the moment and becoming the observer, where we can take responsibility for what's showing up, and then at the same time not attached to that emotion of blame or guilt or, oh my God, I did it again. Share with us your method around that.
Well,
I knew I was going to put you on the spot.
So one of my traits or behaviors that I had, and which it's a double-edged sword. But for a long time, it was a limiting behavior for me. And that was that I would shut down emotionally, which is part of the reason that my marriage ended, because I just, I found it really hard to express my emotions. I found it really hard to go there. I was very closed down. When I was unhappy, like I didn't even have a lot of female friends in my life. I didn't have a lot of deep friendships. I just couldn't go there. And, after doing the work on myself, I'm realizing that came from, my biological mother leaving when I was 3. And I remember seeing my dad being like inconsolably upset and like, okay, I need to be the strong one. I need to shut down emotionally. So that's why has been easier for me to do that. I mean, now, of course, I've done the work on myself and I'm feeling all the range of emotions, which is exhausting at times and amazing at others. But for me, it's always I look at the language that I'm using when I'm talking about the situations. Like when I was sharing about my friend, who, I'm not saying, why does he annoy the snot out of me? That's not the question, right? It's like, how do I get outside of it and go, why does that behavior, annoy me? What's triggering me about that? So I'm looking at it from outside here, like especially with this whole pandemic COVID situation. I have a lot of friends who I've noticed who are very consciously aware, and I know have meditation practices and, very spiritually aware, that are having these massive rants about having to wear a mask. I'm like, no, that's living in the weeds. That's living in the minutiae of life. When we step outside of it and we're looking at, well, how, if I'm a spiritual being having this human experience, the human part of it is having to wear a mask, but what is my spiritual viewpoint? And for me, when I look at, something as simple as wearing a mask, I'm like, well, I don't know for sure whether it's going to save us from, catching COVID or not. I don't know about that. But what I do know that as a spiritual being, I want to be kind and compassionate and empathetic with my other human, the other humans that are around me. So the act of doing that and wearing a mask for me is an act of kindness and compassion, because I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm stepping outside of it. And so rather than being emotionally triggered by should I or shouldn't I, I'm just like, I'm going to do this because this is where I choose to do it from. So rather than, like I said, I try and say, well, what is the spiritual part of me? What is the, the light essence of me when I'm looking at it from that point of view, from this higher view, rather than, the actual drama of life? What's the bigger play here? So how do I act and how do I, come from that place?
I really love that. And it goes back, for me, it goes back to what you were just talking about in the sense of empowering ourselves, empowering, ourselves to move in maybe a slightly different direction than might even feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But allowing ourselves to come out of that space where we maybe have just been stuck for a while and say, hey, it's okay, I've been in that space, kind of allowing ourselves to have that, but at the same time realizing I don't have to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, if there's anything that makes you like, okay, let's say, for example, if we want to stay in our happy place and maintain as much as we can, when you get in the rhythm of doing that, when something shows up that takes you out of that, it starts to you like, oh, okay, I can really notice that. So then it's a chance to have a look at it and go, okay, why are these emotions coming up? Why is this happening? Rather than going, why did this person, or why, has this president, or why is whatever. It's like, why is this particular situation, eliciting this response in me? And then I think from there, it's easy for us to be able to come up with a really great answer, because we're not emotionally attached to the outcome. We're looking at more as the next level up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think so much of that too comes down to a willingness and a desire to grow in ourselves. And it's a shame that so much of it has to happen through struggle and setback and challenge in order for us to finally let go and surrender at the level where we just are like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to be shown what I need to be shown so that I can create what I really desire, this life of joy and happiness. It's so funny. Years ago, I talked to Dr. John DeMartini, and he said that it really comes down to looking at our values. What are the values that we have that create that fulfilling feeling? Like for me, it's writing, traveling, speaking, and lifting other people up. If I could do that all the time, I'd be in that high vibrational feeling every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, the same with me. But we want to do more than that. I remember once, and this was probably a couple of years ago, a friend of mine was doing a reading for me. Mm-hmm. And, he's looking into my energy, and he goes, what brings you joy? And I go, well, my work. And I think he goes, no, not work. He goes, we know that. He goes, what in your life brings you joy? And the crazy thing was I didn't have an answer for him. I'm like, God, I don't know. I really don't know. So what I look at doing is trying to infuse everything I can with as much happiness and joy. Like, how do I have fun unpacking the dishwasher? Like, how do I have fun, doing the things that maybe I don't think are, fun, like, grocery shopping or whatever that is. How do I infuse that with things that are going to bring me joy, which could be, doing little random acts of kindness, or, paying compliments, or anything that's going to, raise that frequency. And so I'm always looking for ways of doing that. And so, because I'm in a fairly new relationship, we've been together for about 3 months. And every day he's commenting, goes, you were just so happy. And I'm like, have you seen my life? I go, but it's not just that. It's that I make an effort. Like, now it's not a conscious effort. Now it is unconscious, because it's something that I do all the time. But, in the beginning, you have to go, okay, well, I need to do certain things which are going to help to raise my frequency. And then after a while, it just becomes second nature. So, yeah, but we want to try and maintain that as much as we can.
You're right.
Well, and so how do we then, of course, we're talking about manifesting here, whether it's joy or, some certain outcome. How do we know if we are manifesting? I mean, how do we know if we're doing it right? And can we kind of control it? Like, do we determine how long it takes to manifest something?
The $1 million question.
All right.
So the thing is, we are creating all the time. Our thoughts create our reality. And what I do believe is that, through our thoughts and our actions and our intentions, we can certainly positively influence the outcomes in our life. For a lot of people, they're not quite sure what it is that they want. They know they want to be happy, but they don't know what that means. They know they want to be wealthy, but they don't know what wealth means to them. because it means something to different to everybody. So, getting clear about what that is super important, because that's going to give you a place in which you can go. So yes, we are manifesting all the time. Now, the speed at which we manifest, that depends. It depends on a number of things. It depends on, are we doing our visualizations? Are we taking consistent action? There are two of the biggest ingredients when it comes to manifesting everything is belief and expectation. So when we're manifesting smaller things and we're starting to build this validation and gathering this proof that, this law of attraction thing works, if I focus on that parking space, or I focus on these little things, that I can be able to create that, it starts to build our belief and our expectation. The other thing that does that is our consistent visualizing, seeing ourselves already there, talking as if it's already happening. What happens is that everything that all of our cells, our whole energy becomes aligned with this particular future. So it makes it easier for us to believe that that's going to happen. So, if we are maintaining that higher frequency, sometimes we can do things really quickly. Like for me, manifesting, what I want can happen in a very short period of time. Like I said, a lot of my business goals that I put in my mind maybe at the beginning of this year, I was able to manifest this year, like 2020, I was able to hit these goals because I know and I believe that when I put my mind to it and I set certain goals and I'm taking these certain actions, that it's going to happen. So that's what makes the manifestation process faster. And if you find that it's slowing down or it's not happening quite as fast as you want it to, some of the little tricks that I recommend is that, number one, you want to start to really acknowledge and focus on all the little wins, because sometimes some of the bigger goals that we're going for will take some time. And so when we can acknowledge that we're always moving forward and we've already had a little win, that means that we're enjoying every single moment of the journey, because enjoying the journey is what it's all about. Because even though we may set this goal and we finally get there, there's always going to be something else after it. We're always going to be on the way to something. So if we can make sure that every day above ground is an awesome day, we're acknowledging all the positive things that are happening, this is what helps to also speed that whole process up.
I love that. It makes me think too, it's something that I've heard you talk about in the past, about really activating your neural pathways with your reticular activating system. So all of a sudden you begin to start noticing that thing all over the place.
Yeah. Well, the reticular activating system is this little bundle of nerves that sits at the base of the brain. And it has several different functions. And it helps to regulate hormones and different things in our body. But what it is also is the gateway between the subconscious and the conscious mind. So if you think about it like this, the subconscious mind is kind of like the supercomputer. Like I said, it runs the show 95% of the time, but it can process 40 million bits of data per second.
Wow.
So as you're sitting here, there are so many things that the subconscious mind is aware of that's happening in our peripheral. The conscious mind, our thinking mind, can process 40 bits of data per second. And so with the reticular activating system, it's the gateway that says, out of the 40 million bits of data per second, what 40 am I going to be pushing through to the conscious mind? So when we are visualizing on a regular basis, when we are already, training our brain for all the things that we want, then the reticular RAS, I call it, it says, okay, this is of interest to you. So this is what I'm going to push through to your conscious mind. So you start to notice things in your environment that may have already been there all along, but now all of a sudden you're starting to notice them because you've trained your brain to look for them. Like I remember, this is years ago when I was living in Sydney. My husband Glenn and I decided we wanted to get a new car. We wanted a convertible, but we wanted like a hardtop convertible. So Glenn's doing some research and he goes, we should get a VW EOS. And I'm like, what's that? Never heard of that car. And he showed me a picture online. I'm like, oh, that's a cute little car. The next day I saw 5 of them. 5.
Wow.
I mean, and I'd never seen them before. Obviously, they were there, but I never noticed them because they weren't of interest. But as soon as I went, this is kind of what I want, they were popping up all over the place. I'm like, right.
Wow, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fun. Well, and I obviously people have been talking about manifesting for a while now, and we hear all these different things about manifestation. But really, what you're talking about is like there's a system to it. It's not just, okay, you want something, you tell the universe you want it, and it shows up. There's actually some things you have to do along the way. And one of those actually does require action. So how do you know, okay, this is the point where I've got to like start moving towards something and not just be hoping for it or making my list and visualizing it?
Yeah. Well, this is a big question I get a lot as well, because, in the beginning, and if you watch The Secret or read The Secret, or, a lot of people go, you don't need to know how it's going to happen. You just need to know where you're ending up, where you want to go. Your job is to focus on that, and the universe will provide the how. Well, that can be a little confusing for people because they're like, wait a minute, am I doing something? Am I not? Am I just visualizing? So yes, that's true. And you need to start taking action in a direction. It may not be the one that you end up on, but you need to be taking some kind of action in the direction of, where it is that you want to go. So let's say, for example, you want actually, I'll give you my example. So, this is back in 2006. This is when we actually had seen The Secret. And I was writing out all these affirmations about this business that we were in at the time. It was a network marketing business. And I'm writing out all these affirmations. I get to travel the world. I get to speak on stage. I get to help people make money. I get to work on the beach on the laptop, and I've created this whole life. And I was convinced that this network marketing business was going to be the business. So we're in there and we're working hard on this business. Through that business, we met our friend Ryan. And Ryan was the one that came to us and showed us this little movie that he created, which was PowerPoint slides and photos and music. And he said, look, I want to go into business with you guys and set up a website so that, we can sell the instructions so people can make these movies. Now, Glenn and I didn't know anything about the internet. We already had 4 businesses. And I'm like focused on like, this is going to be the thing. This is the one. But in the end, like I remember, when we came over to the US, we joined a mastermind. We did the big launch of my movies in 2008. When I went back home, I remember finding that list of affirmations and going, oh, wow, this internet business ended up being the vehicle that got me there. And I'm like, it's so funny because like just 2 days before Ryan approached us with the idea, if someone had said to me, that list, not only will you manifest that, but you're going to manifest a life beyond your wildest dreams, and you're going to do it through the internet, I would have laughed my butt off because I'm like, there's no way that's going to happen. I don't know anything about the internet. So that's one of these things. Like, you need to take action in a direction. If we weren't in that network marketing business, we would never have met Ryan. So it's one of those things where if you need to just go, you need to start that momentum. Because you can't be in the right place at the right time. You can't be meeting the right people if you're sitting on the couch and all you're doing is visualizing. You need to be out there. You need to get that reticular activating system programmed so you're getting to see everything that's going on. And like I said, there's no such thing as the wrong action. Any action is better than no action.
That's so true, because when I think about literally knowing about you all these years ago in the early 2000s, and I had always wanted to meet you, and I saw all these people that knew you, like I said, John C. Lee and Eric Swanson, all of them, but I kept always seeing the joy that I felt in meeting you. And then all of a sudden one day, Eric says to me, Sherry, you need to meet Natalie Ledwell. He says, you guys laugh the same way, you play full out, you're silly and crazy. And he says, you need to meet her. And then all of a sudden when we talked, it was like we were sisters from another mister.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. That's how like people come together, and especially when you show up, when I do a lot of the work with my community as well, it's not just talking about, how to make the law of attraction work for you. Yes, of course we do that. But then part of it is, who am I becoming? Because you need to become a certain person to be able to step into the wealth, to step into the responsibility of the business or whatever it is that you're wanting to do. And so, you start to change the way you see things, your perspective, the way that you respond rather than react. You evolve into this particular person that shows up with the values that you have, that shows up, with the passion that you have. And of course, that energy, that frequency is obviously going to attract people who have a very similar frequency back to you. So that's also a very important part of the process. It's not just the nuts and bolts of applying law of attraction, but it's who am I becoming? Who am I? What do I stand for? What's important to me? What am I passionate about? And how am I infusing all of that into what I do?
So tell us a little bit about what that looks like on a daily basis for you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I have a morning routine that I do every day, which for me is paramount. I don't do the same thing every day. I don't do it the same way. I do a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about when you're just doing the same thing day in, day out. Like if your morning routine is exactly the same, all you're doing is reliving the past. But I have the same components. So depending on, like there's 3 mornings a week where I'll get up and work out with a trainer. Exercise is always part of that. So sometimes I do exercise first. Sometimes I'll wake up a little bit early so I get to meditate first. And otherwise I'll meditate before I start working for the day. If I'm out exercising and I'm not with a trainer, then I'm listening to some kind of education, whether it's a podcast or I'm listening to a teleseminar or an audio book or whatever that is. So education is also part of that as well. And my gratefuls. So I'll take Bella out and I'll, make sure that I'm talking, going through my gratefuls and really feeling that, heart expansion and feeling into the emotions of that. So meditation, exercise, education, grateful. And then, I always have a really healthy breakfast after I've done all of that. So it really helps to set me up for the day. But, having those components, and again, I encourage you to mix it up. Even the type of meditation I do is different. Like if I can wake up early, then I'll do a Joe Dispenza meditation. If I don't have a lot of time, I have this other meditation that my friend of mine, Dawson Church, does, which is a little combination of tapping and meditation and a couple of other modalities, which is really cool. So I'll even mix that up, and sometimes my meditation is just to get me centered. And sometimes I use it to connect to the consciousness so that I can get insight and guidance on, where I need to go next and what steps I need to take next. So, I'll mix all of that around, but that they are the main components that I have every morning.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now, I know that you talk about different types of affirmations. What are those different types of affirmations?
Yeah, so I mean, when we're describing what it is that we want to create, I always recommend affirmations because number one, it's written in present tense. So when you're reading it, you're already seeing like it's already happened. But the other thing is that because we're using the right language, and what's important about the language that we use is that, every word that we put in that affirmation is conjuring up a picture in our mind. So saying something like, I want to be debt free is not necessarily an affirmation, because when I say the word debt, I know where I go when I say the word debt. I go back to when I was struggling back in 2006. So we don't want to be using words that are bringing up that the things that we don't want to attract. So that's important. So instead I'd say, I'm financially free. So it's important that we do that so that we're using the right language about what we want, because our words are very powerful. And especially when it comes to the pictures that we're creating in our mind. The other thing is the categories that I was going through before. First of all, write what it is that you want. I am. Rather than go, I'd like to have a successful business. No. I have a successful business. And then if you can, put as many emotional words in there. Like I have an outrageously successful business. I have a passion-fueled business. Whatever that is, because remember, we're using these to describe the future, but to elicit that emotion as well. So what it is that you want, describe it as if you already got it now. Then describe what life looks like. And this is particularly important because the what life looked like affirmations are the ones that fuel your visualizations. So when we talk about money, for example, and we want to create wealth, when you visualize, you're not necessarily visualizing just a pile of cash because, that doesn't really elicit a lot of emotion. Maybe if you were, naked rolling around in the cash. That would elicit some kind of an emotion. But what we want to really visualize when we think about what life looks like is, what does it mean to you? So once you had that money, how does it change your life? What does your day look like? What are you doing differently? What are some of the moments that you're going to be creating because you have the financial freedom to do whatever the hell you want to do? So those are the kind of things that you want to describe in those type of affirmations, and then we're talking about why, and when I talk about my why, I feel like, why am I doing this? Because when you get stuck and you come across a challenge, which we all come across challenges, when you can remind yourself why you're doing it, it helps to keep you moving forward. So when I think about why, I think about a why for the people that I'm serving. If I'm creating this outrageously successful business, how is it benefiting the people that I'm serving? Then I think about the why for the people that I love. So when I create this, how is it positively affecting, my loved ones and my family? And then the last why is the why for me, my personal why. And you could be as intimate and as selfish as you want to be here. No one else needs to see this list. You may want to be, outrageously wealthy because you want to be able to afford to have a massage once a week. Write that down, whatever that is. Maybe you want to be able to shop for clothes whenever you want to. Make sure you write those things down. And then, I also add some action ones in there as well, some action affirmations, because I may need to add things into my daily practice that I haven't done before. And when I have these written out as affirmations in my list or on my mind movie or my vision board, it reminds me to do them every day, which it could be, you might want to start meditating. You might need to start exercising. You might need to change your eating plan or whatever that is. Make sure that you've got that in there too. And then, of course, the last type of affirmations are your thought affirmations. How do I need to change the way I think? If I'm aware of all these thoughts that are not serving me, what am I choosing to think instead? And make sure that you write them in there as well. So it's, what it is that you want, what life looks like, why you want it, what actions you need to incorporate into your daily practice, and how do I need to change the way I think?
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. That is so amazing. And I'm just thinking, if anyone out there has had a really challenging 2020, which, a few people have, you have dropped so many, yeah, right. You have dropped so many gold nuggets here tonight. So, just if you could give like a first step suggestion, let's just say, 2020 just was like the worst year of someone's life. How can they take that first step towards, moving in this direction and kind of like having a little bit of hope that it can get better?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's all about the happy place, because we can't see ourselves out of our current situation if we are still in our lower frequency emotions, if we are still in the pain or just focusing on the debt or just focusing on the loneliness, then we can't see our way out of it. We need to raise our frequency, because it's only from that higher place that we actually can get into hope, which is a higher frequency emotion, that we can get into that place. You go, oh, well, I actually think I can achieve this, or I think I can be able to do this. So have that daily practice of gratitude. Do these random acts of kindness. Do these little things that you can do throughout the day that's going to really make you feel better and put you in that higher frequency. And it's from that place that then you want to go, okay, well, what is it that I want to create? If what I have now is not what I want, what do I want? And really have fun with it. Really get creative with it. And I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to set too big a goal at first because, what if I can't do it? What's the worst that's going to happen? You may be a little bit disappointed. It may take you a little bit longer than you thought. Either way, if you keep focus on that, get in that happy place and keep focus on where it is that you want to go and take that consistent action, you are going to get there.
I love the way that you're sharing all of these solutions and steps, because one of the ways for me to get into my happy place is my kids think I'm so crazy, but it's a sugar boom, boom. That's what I'm saying. And I swear to God, it has allowed me just in any second to shift that anything I might be feeling and to really just raise that vibe, because the real me, the Sherry Marie Gideons, is so over the top and playful and, fun. And the more that I have stopped worrying about what people thought over the years, and I've gotten more in alignment and in touch with the feeling of what I really want, the clarity of that.
Yeah.
The more that, just like we were saying earlier, the more that I attract in everything that's a match to that. Me being myself.
Yeah. And that's the thing where you've got to flex your manifesting muscle. Maybe you want to start on something smaller, but that's going to build that belief and expectation, right? And then you start to gather more evidence, and then you start to, believe more. And then next thing you know, you're going, okay, I want to live in Spain. I want to, do it, whatever that is. And then you can get more audacious in what it is that you're really putting out there.
I like that word, audacious.
Yeah. So what do you feel like the greatest gift 2020 has given you has been, and that you've helped co-create?
Wow. Okay. So 2020 has been a big blessing for me. I realized that, because I used to normally travel all the time. I'm on a plane every other week. So all of that just stopped. And it gave me a moment to get centered and to get quiet, and then to really evaluate and go, well, was I happy with the way that I was living my life? I was looking at my choices and I'm like, wow, I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I was finding it really difficult to keep up with my workload. Now it's like piece of cake. It's very easy for me to do all of that. And I've also had the opportunity, because I'm not traveling all the time, to take charge of my health, because I'm in a routine of eating healthy and exercising regularly. I also took on a personal coach. I always have a coach, but I took on a new coach this year. And we've been able to do a lot of clearing of things that, I wasn't even aware of, because I could consistently do the work. So, and even, questioning, like, why was I traveling so much? That was just crazy, and then being honest with myself and going, oh, okay, it kind of made me feel important. So that's, and I'm realizing, do I need that anymore? So it's helped me to release a lot of things that I don't need, that I know are not serving me, focus on what really is. And of course, it's freed up time for me to welcome a relationship in. Like for years, I've been going, I want to find my love. I want to be in a relationship. And yet I was never home. Like, hello. So now I have the time for that too. And I've been able to, and all the self-reflection has been great. So it's been a big blessing.
That's beautiful.
You step back from social media for about 3 months as well. I think
3 months, yeah. I was fixating on it got so crazy, and I'm just like, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. And other than doing the live broadcast for my movies, I spent no time. I didn't post. I didn't do anything. And what was great was that having that time off helped to reprogram the algorithm on Facebook. So now it's a happy place again for me. I'm like, okay, this is good. But it also got me out of the routine or the habit of going to Facebook all the time. I was wasting so much time on social media. And I was able to eliminate a whole lot of that as well. So that even made me more efficient. So it helped me to create new efficient habits as well. But yeah, it didn't miss me, and I didn't miss it. It was.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. This hour has just flown by, and our audience is grateful for you. So many of our friends have been anticipating this experience in the last hour with you, and we're just very grateful. Why don't you go ahead and share with our audience how they can reach you and get a hold of you? I've got several websites. I've got your personal website, but speak that for our podcast.
Yeah, so if you go to NatalieLedwell.com, so NatalieLedwell.com is my personal website where you'll find out all about the podcast, and the kids program, the curriculum that I've been working on, and a whole bunch of things that are my personal things. Mindmovies.com is our main website. And that's where you'll find things like the Inspiration Show and other content things there. And I know that you guys have a link here for your listeners to go through and download 6 free pre-made mind movies. So we actually created mind movies, 6 of them, on courage and confidence, on creating wealth, on finding your perfect partner. And the cool thing about these pre-made My Movies is that when you download them, you can start watching them straight away. You can download them to a phone or a tablet or your computer. But once you start watching them, it starts to give you a really clear idea of what wealth means to you or what love looks like for you, which makes it easier for you to get super clear about what it is that you actually want. So they're an amazing tool, and you get instant access to those.
That's awesome. And go ahead and speak your Facebook one. I pulled that from your
Oh, yeah. So facebook.com/mind movies. We have, I think, 450,000 people that, in our community there. And I do live broadcasts 3 times a week on that page at 2:00 Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So they're very interactive. You're able to connect with me personally. We can do all of that. So that's a fun place to go as well.
Nice. Well, thank you once again. Pam, why don't you go ahead and share with our audience members how they can reach us on the High Vibe Nation?
Well, of course, you can find us on the web, at thehighvibenation.com, or on Facebook at The High Vibe Nation, or on Instagram at The High Vibe Nation.
Awesome. And we want to thank each and every one of you, as always, for being on the High Vibe Nation and sharing this out with all of your friends and on your own personal pages. And we are on Monday evenings from 5:00 p.m. Pacific, or actually now Mountain Standard Time, since we changed here in Arizona. And then we're also on Wednesdays at 5:00 Mountain Standard Time. And we want to thank you all once again for being a guest. We want to thank you, our special guest, Natalie Ledwell. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. It's been so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
From everybody here at the High Vibe Nation, we want to say thank you for choosing to raise your vibration. And of course, please like, share, and subscribe. If you need to find us on the web, check us out at www.thehighvibenation.com. Looking forward to seeing you on the next episode, and